One might say to themselves, why does a guy at 41 years old who couldn't play against the San Antonio Spurs because allegedly he had a bad ankle and couldn't go? We know what he's really doing, folks. He's waiting to play against lesser opponents so he can stat pad, because that's what he does.
Craig Carton blasted LeBron James for what he called blatant stat padding during the Lakers' win over the Mavericks. With Los Angeles leading by 16 points late in the game, Carton claimed LeBron stayed on the court solely to secure a triple-double, even taking a rebound that could have gone to a teammate. He also criticized a timeout by JJ Redick that appeared to help LeBron reach the milestone, calling the entire sequence a poor look for a veteran player.
LeBron James is a fraud. LeBron James, once again, proves that he's a pat-standing clown and should never again ever be mentioned in the same breath as the greats who have ever played this great game that we call National Basketball Association basketball.
Do you think LeBron James is too focused on adding to his personal records? Or is Craig Carton making too much of a future Hall of Famer chasing another milestone? Share your thoughts in the comments below.
Oh, look at LeBron James. Oh, this guy to have a triple-double. Funny how his ankle wasn't good enough for him to play the night before against the San Antonio Spurs, but in a night when you have no Cooper Flagg and the Mavericks are a bad basketball team with half their roster out, LeBron James not only plays, and obviously played very well last night.
The controversy started when LeBron James sat out a game against the Spurs due to an ankle issue, with the Lakers saying he needed extra rest. That seemed reasonable for a 41-year-old veteran managing his health. But in the very next game against the Mavericks, LeBron was back on the floor and remained in the game long after the outcome had been decided. With the Lakers leading by 16 points and only a few minutes left, many expected the starters to head to the bench. Instead, LeBron stayed in, needing just one more rebound to complete a triple-double. With the points and assists already secured, all eyes turned to whether he would grab that final board and add another historic milestone to his resume. What happened next only fueled the criticism.
Against the Mavericks, I want you to walk me through this. LA Lakers up by 16 points, 3 minutes and change to go. Mavericks miss a shot, and Austin Reeves gets a rebound, and everybody starts yelling at him because that should have been LeBron's rebound to get the triple-double.
The criticism grew even louder when Austin Reeves grabbed a routine defensive rebound late in the game. Instead of celebrating the play, teammates reportedly reacted because that rebound could have helped LeBron reach his triple-double. According to critics, the moment exposed the team's focus on helping LeBron secure a personal milestone, turning an ordinary basketball play into another talking point in the stat-padding debate.
After Austin Reeves gets that rebound, JJ Redick actually calls a timeout. Now, I'm thinking they're calling a timeout to get all the starters out of the game because you're up by 16, 3 minutes to go, the game is a wrap. That's not why he called timeout. He called timeout so that they could tell Austin Reeves, no more rebounds. You stole a rebound from LeBron, and LeBron's not coming out of the game until he gets a triple-double. Because, again, it's not about his well-being. It's not about protecting him for a playoff run. It's about stat padding. We got to make sure LeBron gets one more rebound so that he gets a triple-double, and then we'll take him out of the game.
The situation became even more controversial when JJ Redick called a timeout despite the Lakers holding a comfortable 16-point lead with just minutes remaining. Normally, that's the moment coaches pull their starters and let the bench finish out the game. Critics, however, believe the timeout served a different purpose. According to that view, the message was simple. LeBron was staying on the floor until he secured the final rebound needed for his triple-double. The sequence fueled claims that the team's focus had shifted from closing out the win to helping its star reach another statistical milestone.
Not healthy enough to play against the Spurs, healthy enough to play against the Mavericks without Cooper Flagg, and wouldn't come out of the game up by 16, 3 minutes and change to go until he does what? Until he stat pads, gets the extra rebound, which he stole from Hayes on his own team so that he could get the triple-double. Now let's call another timeout. Let's get him out of the game so everybody can celebrate that at 41 years old, he's good enough to get a triple-double.
The situation has sparked strong criticism from some fans and commentators, who argue that it reflected poor decision-making from both LeBron James and the coaching staff. LeBron, at 41 years old and reportedly dealing with an ankle issue, was still on the floor in a late-game situation despite the Lakers holding a comfortable lead and needing to protect his health during a crucial stretch of the season. Critics say that chasing a statistical milestone in a low-pressure moment raised questions about priorities, especially with playoff positioning still important. At the same time, JJ Redick has also come under scrutiny from those who believe the coaching staff should have managed the situation more carefully by resting key players rather than extending their minutes in a game that was already decided.
But the reality is this. It was on display last night. You can choose not to see it. You can choose to change the narrative of it.
What narrative?
That was another abuse of stat padding by your self-appointed GOAT.
Craig Carton's criticism adds to an ongoing narrative around LeBron James and how he manages his availability late in his career. Carton points to the contrast between LeBron sitting out the Spurs game due to an ankle issue, while returning in the following matchup against the Mavericks, suggesting inconsistency in how injury concerns are applied. Critics of this view argue it looks like cherry-picking opponents, implying players should either sit out regardless of matchup or play through issues consistently. Supporters, however, say load management and game-to-game health decisions are common in today's NBA, especially for veteran stars. The broader debate over stat padding and late-career workload management continues to follow LeBron, as it has for much of his time in the league. The debate around LeBron James continues to split opinion, with critics pointing to past moments where he has stayed in late-game blowouts to reach statistical milestones like triple-doubles, including situations where he appeared to favor passing or staying on the floor to secure specific numbers. In this case, the controversy feels stronger to them because of the earlier injury explanation, with skeptics arguing that playing heavily in one game after sitting out another raises questions about consistency and intent. Supporters, however, counter that at 41 years old, LeBron's ability to still produce elite performances and historic stat lines is itself the story, and that load management decisions are common across the league. They also argue that his longevity and production over 22 seasons give context to why chasing records is part of his late career narrative, even if critics disagree with how it looks in isolated moments. This argument only intensifies the criticism from LeBron's detractors, who see the situation as part of a broader pattern of selective availability and late-game stat chasing. From that perspective, the sequence of playing against a stronger Thunder team, sitting out versus the Spurs, and then returning in a comfortable matchup against a weakened Mavericks roster is framed as inconsistent decision-making that invites scrutiny. Comparisons to past NBA legends often follow, with fans citing Michael Jordan's Wizards years as an example of playing whenever healthy without managing games for statistical goals, and Kobe Bryant's reputation for playing through significant injuries as another contrast. Supporters of LeBron, however, argue that modern load management practices, longer careers, and different medical approaches make these comparisons less straightforward, even if the debate around legacy and competitive intent continues to fuel disagreement among fans. Critics of LeBron James argue that the current controversy highlights a larger tension between legacy building and team priorities. They point to the idea that, in past eras, players like Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan typically left games once the outcome was decided, rather than staying on the floor to chase late statistical marks. In contrast, they say LeBron has always been more openly conscious of his place in NBA history, frequently highlighting milestones and records as part of his public image. While supporters see that as confidence and competitiveness, opponents argue there is a line between awareness of legacy and prioritizing individual achievements over team needs. With the Lakers battling in a tight Western Conference race, critics stress that managing LeBron's minutes for health and long-term success should matter more than extending his time on the court in already decided games. Critics argue that LeBron James staying in a decided game against the Mavericks raises questions about priorities, especially given the Lakers need to protect his health during a tight playoff race. They also suggest JJ Redick is in a difficult position as a first-year head coach working with one of the most influential players in the league, making it hard to challenge decisions about minutes or late-game participation. In their view, this creates an imbalance of power that can affect team structure and accountability. Supporters counter that veteran stars often have significant input on their roles and minutes, particularly in modern NBA systems focused on player management and communication. The broader debate continues to reflect how LeBron's career is interpreted, with different narratives emerging depending on outcomes, performance, and context. Critics argue that this situation highlights a double standard in how stat padding is judged depending on the player involved. They point to past criticism of players like Russell Westbrook, who was often scrutinized for accumulating triple-doubles that some believe didn't always translate to winning basketball. In contrast, they say similar moments involving LeBron James are more likely to be framed as historic or inspirational, especially given his age and longevity. Supporters of LeBron counter that milestones like becoming the oldest player to record a triple-double are legitimate achievements that reflect sustained excellence over time. However, detractors dismiss that kind of record as largely symbolic, arguing that it says more about extended playing time in low-pressure situations than meaningful impact, especially when compared to records tied directly to team success or championship performance. Critics argue that LeBron James often elevates statistical milestones to the same level of importance as championships, pointing to how these moments are celebrated publicly and amplified through social media and media coverage. They say this constant focus on records has fueled an ongoing and exhausting GOAT debate, with every new milestone used as further evidence of his greatness. Supporters respond that his longevity and sustained production are rare in NBA history and deserve recognition on their own terms. However, detractors believe this approach contrasts with players like Michael Jordan, whose legacy is primarily defined by championships and peak dominance rather than accumulated volume stats. From that perspective, they argue the emphasis on records can overshadow team priorities, especially for the Lakers, who are currently fighting for playoff positioning and need optimal health and rest management for their star players. The debate has intensified as critics argue that LeBron James' late-game decisions reflect a focus on personal milestones over team priorities. They point to his quick exit after securing a triple-double in a game the Lakers had already put out of reach, interpreting it as evidence that his minutes were tied more to statistical goals than competitive necessity. From this perspective, his presence late in blowouts is seen as unnecessary risk for a 41-year-old managing injuries during a crucial stretch of the season. Supporters, however, argue that his longevity and continued production are part of what makes his career historic, and that milestone moments are naturally emphasized in today's media environment. The situation has fueled a wider discussion about legacy, leadership, and how modern stars balance individual achievements with team success.